Hello, 9th standard CBSE children. Welcome back to a new academic year 2021-22 and have a good day, have a nice day. I hope you are doing well. Yes? Right. Now today we are going to start the first video session number 1 as chapter 5, the fundamental unit of life, part 1. I repeat, chapter 5, fundamental unit of life, part 1. What does it mean? It is dealing with cell structure and function. Last year we have studied cell structure and function. With that little more detail or with the elaborate manner, we are going to learn this lesson, fundamental unit of life. Now go through the whiteboard, what is written, you can recollect something. Can you? Huh? So, again, welcome back to new academic year 2021-22. You are in 9th standard and you need to learn little more better with more confidence and concentration and commitment, because right from 9th standard all your lessons are related to 10th standard, 11th, 12th and so on. So please listen carefully, cooperate and do all the work, activity, work, whatever it is given, you have to follow. Right? So now we will start chapter 5, fundamental unit of life, part 1. Now we have studied as cell structure and function last year, is it not? Now what is a cell? Cell is the structural and functional unit of life. What does it mean again? Any part of the living thing. When you take, say for example, suppose I get a scratch in my hand. Then that small piece, the tool, that small piece of skin, when you see under the microscope, it is made up. We find some structures, that is cell. So cell is the structural and functional unit of life. It is building blocks. Otherwise, we say like that. I hope you understand. Now, how does it arise? How do we know cell is the structural and functional unit? It is said, we go back to the history of cell as in the year 1665, Robert Hooke identified some honeycomb-like structure in the cork cell. Cork cell na ஒரு light piece cotton moody சொல்லுவோம்ல, அதுல உள்ள cork cell. Some honeycomb-like structure. Honeycomb na the தேன் கூடு சொல்லுவோம்ல, அதுதான் honeycomb-like structure. So Robert Hooke in the year 1665 as the honeycomb-like structure found in the cork cell. Then in the year 1674, Anton von Leeuwenhoek, Robert Hooke, spelling பார்த்துக்கோ, Robert Hooke, H-O-O-K-E, Robert Hooke and Anton von Leeuwenhoek, it is the name of the scientist. And this Anton von Leeuwenhoek identified the presence of sperm cell, that is male gamete, and then identified some protozoan organism. So it is in the year 1674, Anton von Leeuwenhoek identified the structure of sperm cell and some protozoan organism. And then in the year 1831, Robert Brown discovered the presence of nucleus in the cell. Again I repeat, Robert Brown in the year 1831 identified, they have discovered the presence of nucleus in the cell. And in the year 1838, it was Schleiden and Swan along with that Adolf Virchow, another scientist, Adolf Virchow, they stated a statement called cell theory. I hope you understand. I will come back to that cell theory again. Then Pickenji, another scientist, Pickenji, coined the term protoplasm. And from 1930 onwards, the development of microscope led to the study of detailed structure of plants and animal cells. I hope you understand. So this is the history. So far, I have just restricted the number of years. There are list of scientists who discovered certain cell organelles that we will do one by one. So I say 1665, Robert Hooke studied the structure of cell in a honeycomb-like structure, and Anton Leeuwenhoek identified the presence of sperm and protozoan. Robert Brown discovered nucleus. Schleiden and Swan stated cell theory, and Pickenji coined the term protoplasm. And by the development of microscope, the study of cell structure went in detail. Are you clear? I'll go through that for a second. Go through history of cell structure, how it is done. Discovery of cell. Okay. So now, see here. See this picture. In the picture video screen. This is plant cell. 1 minute. This is plant cell. This is animal cell. I hope you understand. We have done last year. I'll play cut. So plant cell and animal cell. Okay. Now the cell theory, what does it state? All living things are made up of cells. Cell theory, all living things are made up of cells. Cells are the basic structure and function of an organism. Cells are the basic unit of structure and function of an organism. The new cells are produced from pre-existing cells. What are the cell theory we say? All living things are made up of cell, a unit called cell. It is the structural and functional unit, and new cells are produced from the pre-existing one. I hope you understand this. Now these cells, they contain something. Okay. So now I say cell. We say it as cell. It is as formed of nucleus and cytoplasm. It is formed of nucleus and cytoplasm. Now this nucleus and cytoplasm together is forming a structure called protoplasm. Now these two together, it is known as protoplasm. Okay, so protoplasm is the physical basis of life. It is a combination of nucleus and cytoplasm. Okay, so I repeat, cell is the structural and functional unit of life. It is formed of protoplasm. That protoplasm in turn contains nucleus and cytoplasm. The cell theory, it is stated by Schleiden and Swan along with Rudolf Virchow. They say that cell theory states that cells are the basic unit of life. It is forming the structural and functional unit of an organism, and it is formed from the pre-existing cells. You are looking about you have already learned that, only I am just recollecting as introduction. Okay. Now we come across a term prokaryotic cell and eukaryotic cell. What do we know? The primitive cells, unicellular structure, when they are having a limited presence of cell structure, they are called prokaryotic cell. Especially these prokaryotes, they differ from other higher animals by the presence of nucleus. Okay, so prokaryotic nucleus, it is just represented by incipient nucleus. Otherwise, we say nucleoid or incipient nucleus. Incipient nucleus. Otherwise, it is just represented by genetic material. Normally, we know that nucleus, it is having outer nuclear membrane, inner to that nucleoplasm, which in turn contain nucleolus and chromatin network, chromosome. Yeah. Whereas in prokaryotic cell, it is a main difference where presence of only genetic material as the nuclear structure. So it is known as nucleoid or incipient nucleus. That is the major difference between prokaryote and eukaryotic cell. Okay? Another cell structure as ribosome, cell membrane, they may be present in the prokaryotic cell. Are you clear? So now the difference between prokaryote and eukaryote. Last year we have studied, I gave in the question bank. Just recollect pannikku. First one, prokaryotic cell, they are smaller in size. Prokaryotic cells smaller in size, and it lacks well organized nucleus when represented by nuclear material only. Absence of nuclear membrane and nucleolus. And then prokaryotic cell will have only a single chromosome, and it lacks membrane bound cell organelles. Cell organelle next nama padipom solren. It lacks membrane bound cell organelles. And then cell division occurs by fission or budding, and mitotic and meiotic divisions are absent. I repeat, cell division occurs by fission or budding, and mitotic and meiotic divisions are absent, and ribosomes are smaller in size. I hope you understand. You can recollect this. So what are the features of prokaryotic cell? Smaller in size. Now absence of well-defined nucleus, that is absence of nuclear membrane and nucleolus, represented by nuclear material only, and it is called incipient nucleus or nucleoid. And then it lacks membrane bound cell organelles. Cell division occurs by fission or by budding. Mitosis and meiotic cell divisions are absent. That is for prokaryotic cell. I hope you understand. Whereas eukaryotic cell, it is larger in size and shape. A well-defined nucleus with the nuclear membrane, nucleolus and chromosome chromatin network are present, and then it possesses membrane bound cell organelle, and cell division takes place by mitosis and meiosis, and it has large ribosomes. I hope you understand this. So this is for the prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell. Now when you come to eukaryotic cell, it has nucleus and cytoplasm. I hope you are able to follow this. It has nucleus and cytoplasm. Now this nucleus and cytoplasm, it is bound by a cell membrane. Now this cell membrane has what is called onion peel சொல்லுவோம்ல. Onion peel and the வெங்காயத்தோல் சொல்லுவோம்ல. When you just cut this onion, a very thin skin of onion will be coming. Yeah, that is the onion peel. That is onion peel. Okay. Now this onion peel will have structure like this. A structure like this. This is the cells in onion peel. It has nucleus and cytoplasm. So now this is cell wall. This is cell wall. This is nucleus. And this is cytoplasm. This is cytoplasm. So now we say the onion peel, when it is seen under the microscope, we get structure like this. Outer cell wall, inner to that nucleus and cytoplasm. Okay. Whereas this is a plant. Onion belongs to plant kingdom. Yeah. Whereas in animal, it is also structure like this, where, for example, you just take a cotton bed, Johnson bed, just wet it, and then the cheek, and the cheek portion, you just scratch it, and then keep it under glass light and see under the microscope, where we find structure like this. We find structure like this. So this is nucleus and cytoplasm. This is cheek cell. This is onion cell. Now what's the difference? First, this is a plant cell. This is animal cell. Okay. Now this plant cell will have definite cell wall, whereas animal cell, it is not so. So now we say plant cell, it is having a definite rigid cell wall. Following that is the plasma membrane or cell membrane. Whereas cheek cell, it is cheek cell, it is having only flexible cell membrane inner to that nucleus and cytoplasm. Okay. So the major difference, first, presence of cell wall in the plant cell, absence of cell wall in animal cell. Cell membrane is present in both plant cell and animal cell. And the cell membrane, it is also known as plasma lemma or plasma membrane. I hope you understand. So this is for plant cell, onion peel, animal cell, cheek cell, human cheek cell. And then as, it is as human cheek cell. Now at the same time, this animal cell, as it is flexible in nature, we are saying. Now these cell structures, they have different size and shape. 1 minute. Now these cell structure, they have different size and shape. As second one, sizes and shape. Okay. Now for example, For example, this is RBC. RBC in a red blood corpuscle. It is biconcave, circular, disc shape in nature. And whereas this is smooth muscle. Smooth muscle, it is present in the internal organs and involuntary in nature. This is a muscle cell. Are you clear? Now when we say this structure, this is nerve cell. This is nerve cell. Okay. So these animals, they have different size and shapes of the cell. As RBC, red blood corpuscle, muscle cell. Here what is given in our textbook? It is a smooth muscle. 1 minute. It is a smooth muscle, and then nerve cell having irregular structure. Okay, so it has irregular structure. That is for the structure. See here, this diagram. Book PDF otherwise. First one, smooth muscle. Second, blood cell. Third, nerve cell. Fourth one, the ovum. Ovum is female gamete. And next one, it is sperm cell. It is so small, sperm cell. And then bone cell, bone tissue actually, bone cell. And then a fat cell. Fat, it is having a definite structure, fat cell. I hope you understand. So it is said, first in our textbook, history of microscope and then about the cell. Robert Hooke saw that the cork resembles structure of honeycomb consisting of many compartments. Cork is a substance which comes from the bark of a tree. The bark, tree trunk, bark. This was the year in 1665. Robert Hooke made this chance of observation through a self-designed microscope. And he called these as a cell, as little room. Now this may be seem to be very small and insignificant. And then later scientists discovered microscope. Then microscope structure, compound microscope, nama lab la paathukolla, adapatti detailed when we do the practical, we will study each and every part of the microscope. Microscope structure given in our textbook. And then cells of the onion peel, this diagram. Then cells of the cheek cell for animal cell. Okay. Illada nama book la illai onion cheek cell nama book la illai ana nama pona varsham vachikom. Adha vachi you have to recollect. I hope you understand. Now these structures, they differ in size and shape. Adha vandu solliyachu, right? So here first different size and shape you have to go through the example given in page 58. In the diagram that we have to go through. I hope you follow. The shape and size of cells are related to specific function they perform. What does it mean? Muscle cell 5 minutes pass. Muscle cell it is meant for contraction and relaxation of the body movement. Nerve cell transmit nerve cell impulses. Okay, we'll just continue. We'll continue. So now this size and shape, as I said, depends on the nature of the function they perform. Yeah. So that is called division of labor. Right? We come across a term unicellular and multicellular. Unicellular organism, amoeba, this protozoans, they are unicellular organism formed of single cell where all the function as digestion, respiration, excretion, they are carried out by the same single cell. Whereas in higher animals, what we call multicellular organisms, it occurs division of labor. What does it mean? We say cell, then a group of cells forming tissues, a group of tissues form organ, and then organ system, and these organs they form organ system, and then that form the organism. What does it mean? Say for example, when we take muscle cell, a group of muscle cell, they are forming muscular tissues, and those muscular tissues they are as voluntary muscle and involuntary muscles. So depending upon the action they perform, wherever there is movement of muscle and bone skeletal system, there voluntary muscles are taking part. Whereas all internal organs, whether you want it or not, it keeps functioning. What does it mean? Respiration, it keeps on doing. Circulation, heart keeps on pumping the blood. Clear? Digestive system, as and when we take food, it gets digested. So all these internal organs, they are made up of involuntary muscles. So first cell, they are forming a group called tissues, and those tissues they form the organ. All muscles they form the muscular tissue, and then they form the organ. For example, when we take stomach, it is formed of involuntary muscles, and then stomach, intestine is a mouth, esophagus, stomach, intestine, and other associated glands, they are formed of involuntary muscles, and all that together they form the organ system. And that organ system with the, what are the organ system? Digestive system, circulatory system, respiratory system, skeletal system, and excretory system, and reproductive system, and integumentary system, skin, all these together constitute an organism. So this is multicellular. So we say multicellular organisms, they have division of labor. That's நம்ம textbookல page 59 இந்த paragraphல page 59 இந்த paragraph. Okay, so each living cell has the capacity to perform certain specific function that are characteristics of all living things. There is division of labor in multicellular organism. What does it mean? Different parts of human body perform different functions. Heart pumping the blood, stomach digesting the food, kidney excreting the nitrogenous waste. And at the same time, each cell they have a kind of special function to perform. What does it mean? Muscle cell, they will contract and relax. Glandular cell, they will secrete enzyme or hormones. Same way, RBC, they have red pigment, hemoglobin, and it is taking up oxygen. Nerve cell, they transmit nerve impulses. And ஒரு perform பண்ணுது, ஒரு function perform பண்ணுது. சரி? And in all that, they have a cell made up of structure called cell organelle. Last year நம்ம படிச்சோம் இல்லையா? A membrane bound cell structure found within the cytoplasm. They are called cell organelles. So now first the outermost layer, cell wall and cell membrane. Okay. Now the cell membrane, what do you understand? Cell membrane, it is cell membrane. It is present in plant cell and animal cell, and then it takes part in the function as transport. As cell membrane. Next one, the cell membrane. First, it is forming the protecting outer layer. It is protecting outer layer. So here, the outermost covering of the cell that separates the content of the cell from its external environment. That is called cell membrane. Now the cell membrane, it is also known as plasmalemma or plasma membrane, and it is having a main significant role. Now the plasma membrane allows the entry and exit of some materials in and out of the cell. So transport is done by the plasma membrane, and it also prevents movement of some other materials. And the cell membrane, so it is called selectively permeable membrane. So in the paragraph outermost covering, they take part in transport of materials in and out. Same time, it is not allowing all the material, so it is selectively permeable membrane. Then, how is that movement taking place? As some substances like carbon dioxide or oxygen can move across the membrane by a simple process called diffusion. Okay, so it is taking place by a simple process called diffusion. I hope you understand. So here, what does it mean? As some substance like carbon dioxide and oxygen or oxygen meant for exchange of gases, it is moving by a physical process called diffusion. Now what do you know by diffusion? Diffusion is the movement of molecule from the region of higher concentration to the lower concentration. We come across a term called diffusion, which is a physical phenomena where it moves from the, for example, you take a beaker with water, then add a drop of red ink. Add a drop of red ink, then it spreads, forming a red color solution. Forming red color solution. Yeah. So this phenomena is called diffusion. As diffusion is the movement of molecule from the region of higher concentration to the lower concentration, and there is movement between two molecules. Just go through. Jimmy. Konnichiwa. Like. CBSE school in Kukulua. School in Kukulua. KP Mamo CBSE. Video letting Mushi. இது கேட்டானா பேப்பர் கரெக்ஷன் கேட்டானா சொல்லிக்க இனிமேதான் பதில் வரும். So diffusion, as what does it mean? Diffusion, movement of molecule from the region of higher concentration to the lower concentration. That is called diffusion. So we say diffusion, it may be between liquid to liquid or between two gases. So that is diffusion. For example, when you just have a room spray, what happened? கொஞ்ச நேரத்தில் the room full smell பண்ணுறாரு இல்லையா, that is between two gases. Vapor ரெண்டும் mix ஆகும். Okay, so that is for diffusion. So when the molecule move across the membrane, it is by a process called diffusion. And the process of diffusion, it is a spontaneous movement from a region of higher concentration to the region of lower concentration. Okay, so same way, similar thing happen in the cells also. So normally the concentration of carbon dioxide, which is a cellular waste formed during respiration, and it has to be sent out from the cell. Is it not? So it accumulates at higher concentration inside the cell, and then when the cell external when it is low compared to internal, it gets exerted. Okay, and that is by the process simple diffusion. That's what is given. Something similar to this happen in cells when substance like carbon dioxide, which is cellular waste, requires to be exerted out by the cell, and which is accumulated in higher concentration inside the cell. So it has to be sent out, it has to be eliminated. So what is given? The concentration of carbon dioxide is low as compared to that inside the cell. Then as soon as there is difference of concentration of carbon dioxide inside and outside the cell, carbon dioxide will move out of the cell. This is how it is taking place. Same way, water is also absorbed by the concentration of these cells. I hope you understand. So this is first by the movement of water molecule in and out of the cell. That is for function of cell membrane. Whereas when we talk about plant cell here also movement is taking place, but it is between the two cells. There is a opening or there is a vascular connection called plasmodesmater. Vascular connection called plasmodesmater, through which the movement of molecules from one cell to other is taking place. Plasmodesmater present in the plasma membrane of the plant cell. I hope you understand. So this is for the cell membrane. We have just started the lesson, fundamental unit of life. Okay, so we'll continue in the next video session. Thank you. Have a nice day. Hello, 9th standard CBSE children. This is the continuation of our video number 1. As I say, every video session what we are explaining with the whiteboard, I would like to have it with this picture presentation so that you will get still better clarity. Right? So this is video number 1, chapter 5, the fundamental unit of life, part 1. It's a small brief explanation with the support of pictures. Okay, but I want you to concentrate still better so that you can understand the concept easily. And as I said, 9th standard, you need to learn more. You should understand the concept still better. Okay, so now what you are seeing in this first page, it is about the structure of plant cell and animal cell. And as I said, the major difference what you can see in a plant cell will have a definite cell wall, and then presence of large vacuole, and then presence of plastid, chloroplast, chromoplast, and leucoplast. This plastid I am telling just now, just to make a note, right? And then animal cell, it is having only outer cell membrane, flexible in nature. Okay? And then as we know, cell is the structural and functional unit of life. As I said, cell is the structural and functional unit of life, where cell, it is first discovered by when it traces the history of cell structure, first it was discovered by Robert Hooke in the year 1665, and he observed the cell structure in a cork cell. Cork cell na the branch of a tree sollulla, trunk of a tree sollulla, அது பேரு bark, BARK. And when you see this name tree, வேப்பமரம் பார்த்தோன்னா அப்படியே இந்த கட்டக்கட்டையா உறிஞ்சி வரும், small pieces. They are actually the full bark. When you just take a small piece, it is called piece of bark. Okay. So when that small piece, when it is seen under the microscope, he could see some honeycomb-like structure. Honeycomb na the beehive இருக்குல்ல, அதுதான் honeycomb. Okay, so honeycomb-like structure he could see under the microscope. It was Robert Hooke in the year 1665. Then Anton von Leeuwenhoek, you should know the spelling that I written on the whiteboard. So please learn the spelling. Anton von Leeuwenhoek. He studied the structure of bacteria, structure of sperm, which is the male gamete, and certain protozoan structures. And it is Anton von Leeuwenhoek in the year 1674. Then in the year 1831, Robert Brown discovered the structure of nucleus. When these two, Robert Hooke and Anton von Leeuwenhoek, when they made some discoveries, it was Robert Brown who still further identified the cell structure, and he saw the presence of nucleus in the cell. And then in 1838, it was Schleiden and Schwann developed the cell theory. Schleiden and Schwann developed the cell theory. The cell theory states that, as I said in the earlier session of this video, there are 3 points. What are all? All living things are made up of cells. All living things are made up of cells. Cells are the basic structure and function of an organism. I repeat, cells are the basic structure and function of an organism, and new cells are produced from pre-existing one. New cells are produced from pre-existing cells. I hope you understand. So, cell theory proposed by Schleiden and Schwann. These two scientists' name also, please learn from the whiteboard. In the earlier session we have done. And it is also said further, Schleiden identified and concluded that all the cells are made up of cells. And then it was Schwann concluded that all the animal cells are also made up of cells. And it was Rudolf Virchow who concluded that, another scientist, Rudolf Virchow, concluded that cells came from pre-existing one. So cells came from pre-existing one. So this introduction I have given in the beginning of the video session. Part 1 we are doing. Now what you are observing here is the prokaryote and eukaryotic cell. The major difference between prokaryote and eukaryote is always with reference to the structure of nucleus. Okay. Now this prokaryote, just see, nucleus, it is represented only by the genetic material, and absence of nucleolus and nuclear membrane. And normally unicellular organisms they represent the prokaryotic cell. But in some eukaryotes, the cell wall will be very clear. Sure, yeah. Whereas this eukaryote, there is a well-defined nucleus will be present with the outer nuclear membrane, nucleolus and nucleoplasm, and this nucleoplasm is enclosing the chromatin network, that is chromosome. So usually prokaryote, in the nucleus with the representing nuclear membrane, it is representing the nuclear material, it is called nucleoid or incipient nucleus. Okay, so this is prokaryotic structure. A well-defined cell organelles are present, whereas here in prokaryote it is only unicellular. I hope you understand. So this is for the difference between prokaryote and eukaryote. Also, I said as prokaryotes are generally smaller in size, lacks well-organized nucleus, and its nuclear material is not surrounded by nuclear membrane. Sure? And then ribosomes are very smaller in size in prokaryotic cell. I hope you understand this. So this is for the difference between prokaryote and eukaryote. That structure just I am representing here. Okay. The next one, as I said, first we say cell is the structural and functional unit solliyachu, and then cells there as prokaryote and eukaryote we have said, and then cell we say it as unicellular or multicellular organism. Unicellular, a single structure doing all the function, example bacteria and amoeba. Whereas multicellular organism, say for example, see here, all living organisms are made up of cells. Then a group of cells that have similar structure and function constitute a tissue. Then tissue aggregate to form an organ, and many organs together form an organ system, and organ systems collectively forming an organism. இதான் நான் சொன்னேன் இல்லையா மல்டி செல்லுலர். இங்க பாரு செல், இது வந்து செல், டிஷ்யூ, ஆர்கன், ஆர்கன் சிஸ்டம், ஆர்கானிசம். So here the cell வந்து ஒரு multicellular cell. Here it is a ciliated epithelial cell. Then a group of cells. Then it is forming the stomach and intestine. And then it forms stomach, intestine, as a small intestine and large intestine. So it forms a digestive system. That is organ system. And then there are many organ systems present in human that form an organism. I hope you understand. Last year itself we have studied. 6th standard liye solli kuduthirken. Yeah. So cell, tissue, organ, organ system, organism. This is forming the multicellular structure. Same way in plants also, plant cell and then a group of tissue, and then it is forming a leaf, many leaves forming the organ system with other structure forming a plant. I hope you understand. So this is for unicellular and multicellular organism. Sure? Then the cells, they have different size and shape, as I said. For example, cells are of different shape. Some cells keep changing their shape. Example, amoeba, white blood cells in human. And some cells, they have shape as spherical, round, elongated, spindle shape or branched in nature. What do you understand? This is a nerve cell. First one, it is a nerve cell. It is having a different size. And what is the function? Nerve cell, they transmit nerve impulses. Whereas now what you are seeing, the red one, it is the RBC. And what you are seeing here, myofibril, nucleus, sarcoplasm, plasma membrane, they are a smooth muscle or involuntary muscle. And then what you are seeing here is as xylem and phloem tissue, that is in plant. Xylem and phloem tissues in plant. Then here a single cell amoeba. Now I want you to say some cells have different size and shape. At the same time, the RBC, WBC, nerve cell, smooth muscle, they are a single cell structure. Whereas amoeba is a unicellular whole organism. This also we have studied last year, is it not? So in that, the WBC and amoeba, they show movement. They keep changing their size and shape. What does it mean? Due to, we say it is amoeboid movement. But the difference is, WBC is a single cell, whereas amoeba is a whole organism. So this is the different size and shape. Then when we come to eukaryotic cell, here we find different parts of the cell. Starting from cell membrane, cell wall. Cell wall and cell membrane, it is present in the plant cell. Whereas in animal cell, we find only cell membrane. And then nucleus and cytoplasm. And that cytoplasm will have different cell organelles. What are organelles? A membrane bound structure present in the cytoplasm. It is called cell organelle. So those cell organelles are vacuole, plastid, centrosome, lysosome, mitochondria, Golgi body and endoplasmic reticulum. These are the parts of the cell or cell organelles. In that, centrosome and lysosome, they are present only in animal cell. And if present in very few plants may have this centrosome, and that will take part only during the cell division to form a centriole. Are you clear? So this is the part of the cell. Now what you are seeing again is the plant cell, ultrastructure of a plant cell, and this is the animal cell and plant cell comparison I said. Yeah? So that cell organelles, following the further continuation of the lessons, every part of the cell organelle we have been doing it. Now this ultrastructure of a plant cell, last year itself I have given you. Just recollect the points. Okay. And this diagram, this time we have to do, we have a record for biology practicals where you have to do the diagram also. I hope you understand this. So with that introduction, with this picture presentation, this first video number 1 is explained. So here next we continue with the plasma membrane or cell membrane. That detail we studied, just as a plasma membrane or the cell membrane, it is the in a second layer of the plant cell, whereas it is flexible and forming the outermost layer of the cell. So that cell structure, cell membrane structure of plasma membrane and its function will continue in the next video session. Okay, I hope you have understood this. We'll continue in the next video session. Have a good day. Have a nice day. Okay, so just go through the lesson. Repeatedly I am saying, it's not like up to 8th standard. You have to learn more concept in detail. We'll continue in the next session. Thank you.